Beijing. A senior Chinese general who was under investigation for bribery has killed himself, state media said Tuesday, a development that cast a shadow over President Xi Jinping's expanding crackdown on corruption and dissent. The general, Zhang Yang, was found dead in his home in Beijing after hanging himself on November 23, the state-run Xinhua news agency said, citing China's Central Military Commission. The report said General Zhang was living at home while being questioned in connection with corruption charges. Suicides by top officials are almost unheard of in China, and the ruling Communist Party appeared uncertain how to handle the death. State-run media gave no explanation for the 5-day delay in disclosing the news, and accompanied reports of the suicide with condemnations of General Zhang as a traitor and coward for taking his own life. In committing suicide to avoid punishment from the party and the country's laws, Zhang Yang's action was abominable, said a commentary released by the People's Liberation Army Daily, the military's official newspaper. The commentary called General Zhang two-faced and his suicide shameful. General Zhang, 66, had been one of 11 men on the Central Military Commission that commands the nation's armed forces. He served as director of the military's political department before disappearing from public sight more than 2 months ago. While officials said privately that he had been targeted by MR.Xi's crackdown on corruption, Tuesday's report of his death was the first formal confirmation that he was under investigation. General Fang Fenghui, another rising star in the Chinese military, also vanished from public view at about the same time. Analysts said General Zhang's death is likely to further rattle the People's Liberation Army, which is already reeling from dozens of arrests of top commanders. Less clear is how the suicide might affect the anti-corruption campaign that MR.Xi has used to purge the Chinese leadership of rivals and tighten his grip on the government as well as the military, one of the nation's most politically powerful institutions. General Zhang's suicide has historical resonance in China because of the large numbers of people who killed themselves under political pressure during Mao Zedong's destructive Cultural Revolution. That may be especially true for the party's current leaders, many of whom are of the generation that came of age during that period, perhaps the darkest chapter in Chinese communist history. Some specialists called the very public vilification of General Zhang a sign that MR.Xi intends to press ahead with his crackdown, and perhaps intensify it. Steve Tsang, head of contemporary Chinese studies at the University of Nottingham, said the death will make MR.Xi and his new anti-corruption czar, Zhao Leji, even more determined to punish officials whom they accuse of graft. There is no way that Xi Jinping would relent, Mr. Tsang said. Xi Jinping cannot allow anything to suggest that his policy is wrong. He said the suicide will be used to argue that the campaign must be enforced even more rigorously to prevent traitors like General Zhang from escaping punishment.